This is Live from the Backroom. I'm Remington Ricketts. Today's special guest, Dallas Burrow. Dallas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Remington, brother, I appreciate you having me, man.
So we'll just jump straight right into it. For those who may not have heard of Dallas Burrow yet, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm a singer-songwriter, born and raised in New Braunfels, Texas. Started writing songs, pretty young, probably by 12 or 13 years old. I was starting to write my first songs, and man, got my first little record deal right out of high school, and that record never came out, but it set me on, my path to, kind of trying to figure out the music business, and I've spent years and years now traveling and writing songs and recording songs. I just released my third full-length record called Blood Brothers, so we're just out here playing shows to support the release of the new album, and in town tonight to play at the Blue Light here in Lubbock.
Perfect. And kind of talking about Blood Brothers a little bit,
yeah.
What's kind of the process going into making an album? I know you said this is your third one that you've produced and released. What's kind of the process behind it, and what do you enjoy most about it?
Sure. Well, yeah, man, making an album is it's a lot of work, but as a singer-songwriter and as a musician in general, as an artist, it's a labor of love for sure. My friend Jonathan Tyler produced this album, he's a great artist and a brilliant cat. And so when he and I first started talking about making this record, I had a bunch of songs and stuff, but I was also just kind of telling him about, some of like my background, my influences and stuff, which has a lot to do with my dad. My dad is a songwriter, so it kind of rubbed off on me and kind of set me on the path to starting to play music and write songs and stuff. But so Dad's got this story about being in Nashville in the 70s and hanging out with Townes Van Zandt. And Townes, as you may know, is just a legendary songwriter. He wrote Poncho and Lefty that Willie and Merle cut, and but anyway, so one wild night, my dad and Townes were hanging out and had some drinks, and Townes had this idea that they should cut their arms and mix their blood and become blood brothers. All right, so they did, and so I grew up hearing that story and other stories about my dad's time around Townes and stuff, and so I told JT that story, and he was like, "Man, we got to write a song, to tell that tale." And so we did, and that became the title track. And then from there, it was just kind of like finding songs that fit in with that theme, and kind of piecing together this larger story, which for me, I'm a father and a husband, and so a lot of my journey has been going from kind of being like a wild child, like rambler, gypsy, which I'm still a gypsy at heart, but I was a real kind of hellraiser for a long time, and so I've settled down quite a bit to start a family and stuff, and so a big part of the story of the album and my journey is trying to reconcile, honoring the legendary songwriters like Townes and Guy Clark and Billy Joe Shaver and all my heroes that came before me, but trying to also find a way to be a serious songwriter and also be a family man and be there for my kids and my wife and all that stuff. And so that's kind of the story behind the record. And as far as the process goes, man, we just got in the studio, picked out the songs, we started out by recording the bass, guitar, and drums along with the acoustic rhythm guitar. And the guys that were in the studio with me on this album is the rhythm section from Uncle Lucius played all the stuff on the record. So and that's Josh Greco on drums and Drew Sugar on bass. And so once we got the kind of basic tracks cut, then we go in and bring in a guitar player, a fiddle player. Cody Brown from Reckless Kelly plays fiddle on this stuff, and another guy from Uncle Lucius, Johnny Keys, plays all the pianos and stuff. And so you just kind of, build it up and then just start refining and fine tuning, make sure you have the final vocal you want on all this stuff. And then kind of figure out like the sequence. That's a big part of the process of kind of finishing out the record is deciding what order you want the songs to be in to kind of best tell the story. And yeah, so that's kind of a quick rundown.
And I think you said it best, because I can definitely hear, I've listened to the album several times, and you can definitely hear your storytelling with each and every song, and the way that you've put them in order, I think is probably the most ideal, because you can see where you're going with it. So you've done a great job.
Cool.
For your listeners to hear that story before you've even said it. So I didn't know the background behind Blood Brothers, but you can hear, in different parts of your songs where that comes in. So,
well, man, I appreciate that, man, and I appreciate you listening to it too.
Well, we've got Rivertown playing on the station. Really enjoyed that track.
Killer.
Talk about Rivertown as a single, and kind of how that's integrated for Blood Brothers.
Yeah. So Rivertown is a song that I wrote probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and it's very autobiographical. It really sums up that the part of my story about where I come from, and leaving my hometown, and eventually like starting a family. It's all in there. And but so yeah, I wanted to kind of paint that picture of where I came from. I grew up in New Braunfels, Texas, and it's just a beautiful area of the world with legendary rivers that people come from all over to enjoy in the summertime especially. And so yeah, that kind of just like feeling of growing up in the hill country, and along the Guadalupe and the Comal rivers and stuff is something I wanted to kind of capture. And then just telling the story of leaving that small town, and then eventually starting a family and coming back to settle down and raise my family. And as far as where it fits in the record and everything, I think. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, it's like I kind of wrestled with, because we, in addition to the song Blood Brothers, we also recorded a Towns cover, a song called Mr. Mud, Mr. Gold, which is like a really like serious song, And so part of me, I wrestled with like, does the song Rivertown belong on the same record with Mr. Mud and Mr. Gold? Because they're kind of, they come from different places as far as like my influences go. Rivertown is more kind of probably like a nod to the stuff I grew up listening to on the radio, on Americana radio, which is like Robert Earl Keen and Pat Green and Corey Morrow and all kind of the modern Texas country stuff, or at least it was the modern stuff when I was growing up. But so yeah, it's I think it's reflective of a different side of the music I grew up on, and so I I felt like I wanted to include it just because it's that's part of my kind of influences too.
Awesome. So I guess if we get right into it, this will be Dallas Burrow and Rivertown.
All right. Well, I grew up in a river town with the radio up and the windows down. Started making trouble, it was hard to stop. Chasing the girls and running from the cops. Well, I grew up, things slowed down. I grew up in a river town. No summer nights, round a campfire light. Without my friends and a pretty girl by my side. Well, I grew up in a river town. Well, I grew up in a river town. Oh yeah. A football game on a Friday night had me a hot little blonde underneath the lights. She laughs at my jokes, she thinks I'm cool. She grew up in a rival school. We made out beneath the stands. Came out just a holding hands. And those cool fall nights round a campfire light with all our friends and a pretty girl by my side. She grew up in a river town. She grew up in a river town. Yes, she did. Well, I left town as fast as I could. I got out while the getting was good. Well, I've been around and I've seen the world. I fell in love with a Dallas girl. Came back home, I liked the sound. Raising our son in a river town. No summer nights round a campfire light. Have all his friends and a pretty girl by his side. He'll grow up in a river town. He'll grow up in a river town. 'Cause I grew up in a river town. Well, I'm still growing up in a river town. Well, I grew up in a river town. Yes, I grew up in a river town.
And that is Dallas Burrow, Rivertown. Such an honor to hear that in person.
Oh,
great
man.
song, great song.
Hey, thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
So I guess we can kind of transition now into, we were talking a little bit before the show, you've got a West Coast tour coming up.
Yeah.
And you're going to eventually open up for Charlie Crockett. I see you have him on your shirt. So
You gotta be repping my homie, man. Yeah.
What's that going to be like for you as far as a West Coast tour?
Sure.
Kind of going back to, you said you've traveled to and lived in California for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Going to hit some of those spots. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, man, I've spent a fair amount of time on the West Coast throughout the years. I was, in my early 20s for a period of time living in Los Angeles off of Sunset Strip, and then eventually I moved closer to the ocean, and then later on I would spend several different periods of time up in Northern California in the fall around harvest time. And that was kind of, about, 10 years ago or so. I spent a few years in a row there in the fall, and that's actually where I met Charlie. He and I were both up there just hanging out, being gypsy kids, from Texas, playing the blues and kind of just traveling around, and we became fast friends and stuff. And but no, man, I love the West Coast, and so we're gonna be heading out. Actually, by the time this airs, we'll already be out there, I think. But this coming Sunday, we're gonna be heading for Oregon, and we start out doing a state fair in La Grande, Oregon, and then we got a few dates in the state of Oregon, and then we're going to skip through the corner of Nevada, Carson City, a place called the Nashville Social Club, and then we're going to go down and do a couple shows in Bakersfield and in Los Angeles, and then we're going to cut over to the Rocky Mountains and close out our tour opening for Charlie at a place called the Belly Up in Aspen, Colorado. And man, it's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to getting out to play some of these new songs for some different audiences, and hopefully making some new fans and seeing some old friends, and it's always a good time playing with Charlie, man. He's just setting the world on fire right now, so no doubt there'll be a great crowd up there in Aspen, and yeah.
And I think that's one of the coolest parts about being a musical artist that doesn't really get talked about, is the friends that you make and the connections that you make from early on in your career, and now you're able to extend different opportunities and get chances like this.
Sure.
I don't think many people talk about those opportunities enough.
Yeah, man, it's a great point. I mean, so much of it is who really is, and it's amazing, like to see things come full circle. Like, when Charlie and I met, we were both kind of living, kind of hand to mouth. I mean, and now he's traveling around with 2 tour buses and a semi truck. You know what I mean? Like, he was sleeping on my couch like 8 years ago, and now it's a little different story, and that's a result of his hard work, of course, but and his talent. But yeah, man. I mean, it's amazing the people you meet. You never know when you show up in a town, or going through the things you got to do to travel and play music, man. You'll meet some incredible folks, and then you might see them years later down the road, and they've gone from being a stagehand to now they're running the venue and they're hiring you to come. It's amazing how people can evolve and grow and how those things do come full circle for sure.
So we'll kind of switch it up a little bit here. I've got a curveball question that I always like to throw out there.
All right.
If you could see any live performance, either dead or alive, who would you kind of want to see, and why would that be?
Right now, as you ask me, I mean, my answer might change over time, depending on what's going on and what kind of mood I'm in. But to get to see Townes Van Zandt live, I think, for me, I mean, especially like with the, with the stories that I've mentioned, I think to get to kind of witness him in person firsthand would be definitely a big dream come true. Yeah.
Perfect. And I say that because my favorite part about this, as we kind of mentioned before, is listening to live music. So I always like to get kind of the different inspirations, and because sometimes the live performances are even better than the recorded albums or singles. So big fan of the live shows. Yeah, Speaking of live shows, you've got the Blue Light here in Lubbock, and then are you planning on making trips back towards this Lubbock area, Amarillo, or after your West Coast tour, are you taking a break? Kind of what's your plan?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be back through this area. I've gotten to play some great shows here in the past few years. I think the first time I played in Lubbock was opening for Charlie at the Cactus Theater here in town a couple of years back, and then I played there again with Kyle Nixon, the 38s, and then we've done the Blue Light a couple of times now. Once with the Damn Quails. The last time I was here was with my buddies Hooks and the Huckleberries, who are a band out of Albuquerque that you should check out. And then, so this is my first time headlining the Blue Light. And we were here with Charlie again a couple months back at Cook's Garage, which was a fun show, man. It was, a nice big crowd and a great stage and all that stuff. So, but yeah, no, I don't have any set plans at the moment to be back, but I know I will be at some point. I know we're going to be actually in Amarillo sometime in the next couple of months, I think, doing the Golden Light for the first time. I've never been there, but I've heard about it for years. So, but no, I mean, I think, Lubbock is a great market especially for the kind of music that I'm doing. And so I'm definitely hoping to continue to kind of build a following here and come back often. Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll kind of go into our final song. We've got time for one more song.
Sure.
What have you got for us?
Well, man, since we're talking about towns and all that stuff, I think it'll offer some good contrast to Rivertown to play you the Towns cover from the record. And this is more kind of on the serious, deep into the songwriting pool. And this is a song called Mr. Mud, Mr. Gold.
Perfect. This is Dallas Burrow, Mr. Mud, and Mr. Gold.
By Townes Van Zandt.
Perfect.
Clubs awoke. It was to his queen he turned. His lips were laughing as they spoke. His eyes like bullets burned. The sun's upon a gambling day. His queen smiled low and blissfully. Let's make some wretched food to play. Plain it was, she did agree. Sent his deuce down into diamond, his four to heart, his trade a spade. The three kings with the legions calm. Preparations soon were made. They voted club the day's commander. Said give him an army, a face, a number. All but the outlaw jack, a diamond, and the aces in the sky. Well, it gave David Seven's first instructions said, spirit me a game of stud. Stakes unscarred by the limitations between a man named Gold and a man named Mud. Club filled Gold with greedy vapors until his long green eyes to glow. Mud was left with the sighs and trembles, watching his hard-earned money go. Well, flushes fell on Gold like water. Tens they paired and they paired again. The aces only flew through heaven, and the diamond jack called no man friend. The diamond queen heard of Mud's ordeal, began to think of a long-lost son, fell to her knees with a mother's mercy, prayed to the angels, everyone well. The diamond queen, she prayed and prayed. The diamond angel filled Mud's hole till the wicked king of clubs himself fell face down in front of Gold. Well, 3 kings come to club's command, but the angels from the sky did ride. 3 kings upon the streets of Gold, and 3 fireballs on the muddy side. Club queen heard her husband's call, but Lord, the queen of diamonds joy when the outlaw in the heavenly hall turned out to be her wandering boy. Well, Mud he checked, Gold bet all. Mud he raised and Gold did call, and that smile just melted off his face when Mud turned over that diamond ace. Well, here's what this story's told. You feel like Mud, you'll end up Gold. You feel like lost, you'll end up found. So amigo, lay them raisins down.
And that is Dallas Burrow performing Mr. Mud, Mr. Gold by Townes Van Zandt.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. What a crazy song. And it's so much different to hear.
Right.
Just the lyrics, once you start to understand it, it's a deep song. So
for sure.
Sure do appreciate you performing that one.
Oh, yeah, man.
If we want to stay up to date with Dallas Burrow, how can we find you?
Yeah, so follow me on Instagram at Dallas Burrow Music, on Facebook. I've got a fan page and a personal page, both. And then also my website is just Dallas Burrow. It's Dallas like the city, Burrow, BURROW.com. And you can find all my tour dates and upcoming stuff going on. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we sure do appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah,
Dallas Burrow joining us in Live from the Backroom. I'm Remington Ricketts.
All right, man. Thank you very much, Remington, for having me, brother.